Starting us off in at number 10, Mario. Like many a creepypasta, this internet tale tells the story of a player who stumbled upon a Mario ROM online and decided to try it out. It was titled simply Mario. When the player opened up the ROM on their computer, they were greeted by two files. One was a text file titled with a slew of numbers, and the other was an IPS file titled Mario. When opening the text file, he discovered that it was empty all for a bunch of indistinguishable symbols and seemingly random letters, leading the player to think that perhaps the author of the ROM accidentally tried to copy the game's data into text form. But upon taking a closer look, he was able to decipher the words "Find me," written over and over and over again. Now, when starting the game, he knew something was off. Mario, rather than Bowser, was the villain of the game. He decided to continue playing anyway. As he progressed further, strange notes would appear. At first, just a series of random numbers, but later, they contained messages like, "I hate you." Eventually, he arrived to Yoshi's Island 2, only to discover the game looked much different than it should. The colors had changed, and the vegetation in the foreground was no longer present. Now, when he freed Yoshi, Yoshi told him that Mario had trapped him inside that egg. That's when things get weird. Message boxes from Yoshi kept appearing as he played, as if the dinosaur was trying to communicate through them. He kept playing. As the levels progressed, they became more and more barren. At one point, he killed Yoshi while trying to jump over falling pits, which prompted the message, "This is the selfish way." Yoshi, now fallen into the depths below, kept communicating with him. Messages like, "Don't you think you've caused enough trouble?" They kept popping up. By the end, he was taken to a small dark room with a pipe. He entered the pipe, which would then reveal Mario on a black screen. He was unable to move or exit the level. That's when the player heard a crash. The video game representation of death. And that's when he connected the dots. The whole game was Mario attempting to atone for his actions and the deaths of others. Now, fun fact, this Mario game is actually the basis for a Super Mario World ROM hack that you can download yourself to play, much like the famous Sonic EXE creepypasta game. Moving on to number 9, Paper Mario Cursed Star. This creepypasta has made the rounds on the interwebs for a while, and has even been criticized by some to be the worst Mario creepypasta out there, and also one of the worst gaming creepypastas out there. But I'll let you guys be the judge. There's two variations of it. The first is that a 15-year-old boy got Paper Mario Sticker Star for Christmas, and after playing the game for a while, he realized that the Toad characters who appear in the game were acting strangely. All of them were stuck, and essentially the game just glitched out and it kind of freaked him out. So you can see why that version is not overly interesting. The other version of the story is that he got the game and the same events occurred, except one of the Toad characters spoke to him and told him that he was dead. Now, when the player saved the game and returned to the gameplay, that Toad was covered in something that appeared to be blood. Freaked out, the kid continued to play anyway, but every Toad he came across afterwards had no eyes. This is when he realized that the game must have been some weird hack. The story then goes on to claim that after playing, the player's soul was stuck inside of the card, and that now he can't truly ever die because of it, and is therefore tormented because of his encounter with the Toad character. So thoughts, feelings, garbage, steaming garbage? Up to you guys. Let me know in those comments below. Up next, number 8, Super Mario 128. According to this creepypasta, after Nintendo released Mario 64, they were looking to impress with its follow-up title. The plan was to try to aim for more realistic graphics and violence, much like the kinds of games that were coming out on the original PlayStation system at the time. So in an attempt to make a Mario game that appealed to a wider audience, developers crafted up some test concepts, all of which Mario creator Miyamoto had denied ever existed to this day. This creepypasta follows the efforts of one gamer trying out one of these test concepts, with him claiming to have witnessed some really traumatizing content. During Mario's adventure, all of his friends shun him and desert him in the game. The locations in the game were filled with creepy things like children's skeletons. Bowser, who looked too realistic for their liking, kills Mario at the end by eating him, and the game ends with Mario stuck in purgatory. Yeah, best to let that concept die. And at 7, Why I Will Never Play Another Mario Game. This one comes as a warning from the author. On his 12th birthday, his parents gave him $200 and went away for the weekend, so he decided to go spend it all and play video games all weekend. When he arrived at his local shop, all they had was one game left. It was kinda odd. It was a cartridge with a sticky note on it that read, "Do not under any circumstance sell," no other label. Sure of what it was, the kid decided to pay off the teenage clerk extra money for it, and lo and behold, when he popped it into his N64, it was Super Mario 64, exactly what he wanted. Everything was normal at first with the title screen and the opening bit with Peach, but when the game itself started, something was off. He thought it may have been some weird knockoff game, which is why it was marked at the shop not to be sold. Peach's letter at the beginning now read, "Dear player, you don't know what you were getting into. Turn off your system now and get help. Yours truly, the previous owner." Too excited to worry about this strange warning, the kid continued to play anyway. Afterwards, he ran to Toad. Toad also had an odd message telling him, "You will die if you continue. Turn off the game or I will kill you." Now the kid figured it was just some weird hacked copy of the game, and his curiosity got the best of him. He continued to play with no issue with any of the levels at all afterwards. But when he finally made it into the castle, the floor fell through and Mario landed onto rock, with the text bubble popping up that read, "Welcome to Hell." That's when things started to look really different. Enemies had black eyes, things in the game were glitching, there were endless hallways that seemed to go on forever. As he progressed, he found something terrifying. It was a pixelized picture of a dog, but not any dog. His recently dead pet, Lassie. That's when he heard noises coming outside of his bedroom door. Bolting the door, he panicked and felt that his room was starting to vibrate. He went back to the game, but his TV was now all static. Next thing he knew, he woke up in a hospital bed. Later, he would track down who the previous player of the game was through his game shop. Apparently, it was a boy named Jeff, who had died when his parents found him in his room having strangled himself with the cord of his N64 controller. In at number 6, Mario Kart Purgatory. This one is about a gamer playing Mario Kart. They had finally made it to the final course of the Special Cup, meaning that they were racing on Rainbow Road. Using their favorite character, Toad, they were off to a solid start in the first lap, and managed to make their way to first place. But as they were speeding away on a turn, they were knocked with a red shell, and to their surprise, they were knocked off the course. Now normally under these circumstances, a player would see the animation that lifted them back up and onto the course's road. But this time, no animation came. Toad inside of his cart just kept falling and falling and falling. After a minute of this, the player got frustrated and turned the game off. They rebooted it, hoping that it was a glitch, but to their surprise, every other course in the game was now locked. All they could play was Rainbow Road. So they decided to start the race again. But as soon as the race started, after the countdown, they would automatically appear to be falling below the track once more. Frustrated even more so, they shut off the game. That night, they began having nightmares, seeing Toad falling and falling. But this time, Toad fell through the fiery depths of what appeared to be hell. The player awoke and was unable to fall back asleep. These nightmares persisted, and every time that they tried to play the game again, the same thing would happen. Only Rainbow Road was accessible, and they would continue to fall. After a week of having the same nightmare, they decided to throw out the disc, writing the words "Do not play" on it on Sharpie, since they've never dreamt of Toad falling through hell ever again. Moving on to number 5, the Bowsette Killer. Now, if you're privy to the recent internet sensation that is Bowsette, you'll probably get a kick out of this one. And if you aren't, you should probably check out our top 10 video on Bowsette facts after this. It's a hoot. Anyway, this story is about a fellow who had a particular interest in Bowsette. Now, Bowsette is a bit odd to some. She's essentially an amalgamation of Peach and Bowser, with Bowser using a special crown mechanic in the game to transform into a Peachified version. I mean, technically it's not in the game, but it's sort of in theory and based off of a crown that's in the games, but hey. This fellow, our protagonist, was really into Bowsette. And I mean like really into her. He would get his rocks off by checking out Bowsette fan art, reading Bowsette fanfiction, and watching the videos that cosplayer Jessica Negri posted of herself dressed up as Bowsette. So yeah, you know where this is going. After one particular hands-on session of appreciating Bowsette, our protagonist went out in the middle of the night to a nearby 7-Eleven to get some grub. On his way home, he chose to cut through a nearby alley to get back quicker. As he was walking down the alley, he heard a crashing noise by the dumpster behind him. So, he turned around. Standing there in the dark, he saw a silhouette of a woman, but not just any woman. A woman who looked a lot like Bowsette. Astonished, he thought his mind was playing tricks on him, until he realized that she had a dripping knife in her hand. Then, before he could realize what was happening, she was racing towards him, the knife raised. He panicked and began to run, but the figure kept chasing him. Finally, he got to his house, ran through the door, and locked it. Breathing hard, he looked through his peephole but saw nothing. The next day, he told all of his friends what happened, but they all mocked him, calling him a wanker. He was humiliated, but he knew what he saw was real. Later that night, when he went home, he turned on the news to see a report about a serial killer. A woman who ran around in the middle of the night dressed as a dominatrix who killed unsuspecting men with a knife. Now, it may not have been Bowsette, but he almost did lose his life. At least it, wasn't actually a Bowsette. That's the real horror story here. Up next, number 4, The Haunted Save. The Haunted Save tells the tale of a bored gamer who had developed a New Year's resolution of playing through all of their unfinished video games. And since they had succeeded in doing so, they were out of games to play. That's when they got an email. The subject of the email read, "Get old bootleg SNES cartridges, only in today's e-auction." Well, hello, opportunity knocking. They hit up the e-auction and managed to win a copy of a bootleg Super Mario World. 2 weeks later, the game arrived in the mail. Weirdly enough, the cartridge's label was half torn off, with the only visible letters being U, E, R, M, R, and D. Thinking nothing of it, they popped the cartridge into their system and began to play. Everything looked normal at first, as is the case with every creepypasta. And there was still a save file on the cartridge, titled Save File 1. So they decided to take a look. It opened on the level in which Yoshi first appears. The level looked kinda odd though, different than they remembered Super Mario World appearing. That's when they happened upon a small red hill with a dark red pipe on it. They went down the pipe, and after falling for what felt like 30 seconds, they hit the ground to discover Bowser standing there, just watching. So the player hit the power button, but then text appeared on the screen. It read, "You wouldn't want to do that, would you?" That's when both Mario and Bowser turned towards the screen, which looked freaky as hell. More text popped up. You want a surprise? Bowser pulled out what can only be described as a portal gun, and all of a sudden, all the player could see was lava. Everything everything around them looked like lava. It was as if they were hallucinating. That's when they connected the dots. The letters that were on that cartridge, when rearranged, they spelled out the word murder. And at number 3, Super Mario Galaxy. This creepypasta is about a gamer who wanted to play his favorite game, Super Mario Galaxy. It had long been destroyed from wear and tear, so he headed down to his local game shop to see if he could find a copy. Then, something weird happened. As he was walking over, he found a copy of the game sticking out of a trash can. Curious, he picked it up, and thinking he got super lucky, he brought it home. When he put the disc into his Wii to start playing, it was pretty laggy, but eventually got better the more he played over time. Unfortunately though, the game froze on him, with an error that read, "Error. Floating tile exception. If wanted, please send a report to 71773740 at 510047047.com. You guys get it. Just as he was about to take the disc out, a new message popped up on the screen that read, "Enter disc in PC." So he did exactly that, took it out of the Wii, but put it in his PC. But instead of the game showing up, a folder appeared that read, "Open now." He decided to run a virus check on it, but it came up clean. He then opened the folder and inside were 5 files. watchme.avi, hey.txt, youdonotwantme.wave, rain.wave, and info.txt. He opened up the info text file first. It read, "This disk is just a test," over and over and over again. Then he clicked on the AVI file. It was a video of a deranged man dancing to a song, but rather than a song playing, it was just a bunch of screams. This went on for about 30 seconds. Hey.txt read, "Hey there, you don't know me, but I'm spying on you." The rain wave file was the sound of calming rain, and the last wave file had the audio of someone saying the phrase, "Dispose of me, I am a mess." It repeated multiple times. That's when things took a turn for the worse. Our protagonist heard a knock on his door. Looking through the window next to the door, he saw a mysterious man standing there staring back at him through the window. The protagonist went away, but that's when he heard his front door burst open. The mysterious individual was now inside their home. The protagonist hid, but that didn't help much. In a matter of seconds, he was found, and the last thing he remembers before falling into a deep sleep were a pair of piercing cold eyes that felt like they were burrowing into his soul. And at number 2, the stage play. This creepypasta tells of a story of a gamer playing Super Mario Bros. 3. There was a long-running theory about this game that it was actually all just a stage play, based on the way that the game looked, the curtains that opened at the beginning, and the belief that Mario killing Bowser at the end was all just an act. Years later, Mario creator Miyamoto confirmed this theory to be true. This Mario myth turned fact inspired this creepypasta. So the gamer in this creepypasta dives into the game, deciding to try to beat it in one go. While playing though, she notices a few glitches throughout. Thinking nothing more of it other than it's just, an old ROM that she's running on her computer, she continues, trying her best to ignore it. But after a while, the glitches increase, making it super hard to play at times. Eventually she manages to get to the end of the game. But in the final moments when Mario is supposed to kill Bowser, a different character appears. Bowser is no longer there. Rather, it's just a 16-bit character with a yellow shirt and blue jeans. This just so happened to match what she was currently wearing. A little freaked out, she continues to watch the game's final moments as Mario kills this strange figure that resembles her. The second the character dies, she feels chest pain, she feels faint, and then she passes out. When she wakes up in the hospital, she tries to tell her family members and the doctor what happened. They all look at each other, concerned. That's when her sibling tells her something startling. When they found her passed out in front of her computer, there was a note on her screen that read, "I'm watching you," up on her desktop, and there was no sign of Super Mario Bros. 3 at all. And finally, in at number 1, Super Mario 64. This one is fairly well known. It tells the story of a gamer who in their childhood had fond memories of playing Super Mario 64 while at their aunt's house. Years later, as they're watching gameplay footage on YouTube, an ad pops up, and it leads them to a site with a mint condition version of the game for sale. Normally not really seduced by ads like this, they decide to check it out anyway. The site functioned oddly though, with the customers required to transfer the money for their purchase over an address on the website. They buy it and a few days later it arrives in the mail, but they notice that the URL that they purchased it from had completely disappeared. They bust out their old N64 and put the cartridge in and the title screen appears of the game. But immediately something's off. I feel like I've been saying this all video. Static starts to appear and Mario's face weirdly distorts on the title screen. So the player shuts off the system, then turns it back on. This time, things go smoothly, and they start a new game. But the game skips over the intro with Peach's monologue. Instead, it starts off with Mario inside Bowser's castle facing a silent Bowser. There's no music. From there, he starts to explore and weird things keep occurring. He sees disturbing photos of Luigi hung up on walls, images of Mario's corpse scattered around the game's world. He runs into the mad piano who mauls his Mario. And finally, he makes his way back to the castle only to find Peach standing there, her mouth gaping wide, and her eyes dead black. His Mario is then engulfed in darkness. When the screen fades back in, he's lost all of his lives and he's on a small secluded island. There is only one thing on that island with him, a sign that reads, "Dive." So he jumps in the water and does that. But as he's swimming downwards, there's nothing there. No fish. The ocean's empty. After what feels like an eternity, out of nowhere, Unagi the eel appears and eats him whole. The game then fades out. But what fades in scares the player exponentially. It's a photograph of his family. No matter how many times he tries to turn off the system, it just remains on his screen.
Number 10. Super Mario vs. Sonic. This one starts off with an anonymous user who had just finished playing Mario vs. Sonic at the Olympic Games, and decided to switch to some classic Mario. As normal, they started playing the world 1-1, and made it about halfway through before pausing to get a drink. When he comes back, Tails comes flying down and cuts off Mario's head. The music gets slower and lower pitched as he gets the game over screen. He reloads and tried again. He makes it all the way to the end, where Knuckles emerges from the castle and proceeds to pound Mario to a pulp. The screen flashes red with text that reads, "Sonic is the infernal demon of hell and will dominate the world. He will kill Mario." After hours of trying to beat the Sonic Scourge, the author makes it to World 8-4, where they're due to fight Bowser. But instead of Bowser, it's Sonic. The author manages to dodge some hits, but Sonic is too fast and blasts Mario's body away from his head, pulverizing it. The game gives the author a game over screen depicting Mario's head on a spike and Sonic laughing behind it. Number 9. Super Mario Galaxy. The user Creep0 from creepypasta.org has always been a big Nintendo fan. They had every console and never used an emulator and would always buy the real game. About a year before writing, the author really wanted to play Super Mario Galaxy, but couldn't find his copy. So they started going to a local GameStop to get a new one. As they were walking, however, they see a shine in the trash can. They look inside and it's a copy of Super Mario Galaxy. Oh my god, they didn't find it at a garage sale. What? The author grabs the cartridge and goes home and proceeds to put it in. However, they notice a tab at the bottom. They pull it and inside of the cartridge was a disc. They put it into their Wii and the game starts off laggy. The game freezes and crashes, and then an error code pops up saying insert the disc into a PC. The author does so and starts getting weird messages like, "How did you find this? This was only for one person and this disc is just a test." There were somehow files in it with a text document that said "I'm spying on you" and an audio file saying "dispose of me." Someone knocked on the door. The author didn't move. They knocked again, harder, still nothing. This time they knocked the door in. They were wearing a mask. The author ran to hide, being very noisy as they did so. The intruder came around looking, but the author had a spurt of courage and punched him in the back of the head. But their skin was made of what felt like metal. A Rosalina popped up on the TV screaming and the intruder's head turned 180 degrees. The next thing they knew, the author was just in a deep sleep. Was he dead? I don't know. Number 8. Mario Says the F Word. One night, Ed Boys from Game FAQs was playing Mario 64, playing through the game and currently traveling through the Dire Docks, going through his usual business. When all of a sudden, Mario sharply turns his head 40 degrees and looks at the screen. With a creepy smile on his face, he says, in a typical Mario voice, "Shh, ah, f***." Just as the author's mother comes into the room, she shouts asking if the author is swearing. The author obviously responds with, "It was Mario, not me." Then the author's mother decided to grab him by the ear, throw him onto the ground, and then proceeded to jump on the author's face. As the author puts it, she did the ground pound. She swung the author around by the hair and shouted, "So long, Bowser." Ah, is right. What the actual hell is going on? Goddamn. What is this? Number 7. Maluigi. When Caserin Star from itsjerryandharry.com wanted to test out a complex level he made in Mario Maker, he found an odd power-up. A mushroom that was tall and thin with a round base. He picked it up and the character of Mario warped into something unsettling. He was tall and thin with long legs like Waluigi. He also moved as if he was sneaking around with a hunched back and arms in front of him. This. At one point the camera stopped following Mario and he just walked off screen. When he did, the level restarted, but Mario wasn't there anymore. It was just the level. He didn't know what to do, so he turned off the game and went to sleep, chalking it up to a glitch. However, when a high-pitched creak woke him up in the morning, he looked at his window and a tall figure was climbing in. When he noticed, the figure hurried back outside, and when the author looked down, he was creeping away, hunched back and arms in front. This. When he loaded the game in the morning, Mario was back, and he never saw that weird mushroom again. It's a me, Creepio! Number 6. Super Mario Odyssey. User Lamborghini Bottle on Reddit claims this to be a true story, but is it? He and his brother had decided to play Mario Odyssey together, so they ran to their GameStop. They rummaged through the played games and picked the first one they saw. giving the cashier the money and sprinting back home. The cover seemed normal, except for the extra D in the title, but they misprint things all the time. They put in the game and when it loaded, the icon was strange too. The title was misspelt and Mario's eyes were yellow, his teeth were red, and he was holding a knife towards Luigi. They played the game because they think they're rebels, and soon regretted their decision. When they loaded, the game background had changed to pictures of their family. They tried to turn off the TV, but it didn't work, the switch wouldn't turn off, and the cartridge wouldn't come out. They had no other option but to load a save that had 666 moons. The background changed again to Mario killing Luigi, and then the save loaded. The instant it did, Mario began to move. The Mario falls through the ground and lands on a toad, killing it. Mario threw Cappy at the camera, and it came out of the screen. The cat managed to grab the author's brother and pull him into the game. Mario's eyes went red, his teeth went yellow, and his mustache started growing. Mario opened his mouth and said, "See you in hell." God, that's a bad accent. Number 5, The Man in the Clouds. While the user Spade Club 22 was playing New Super Mario Bros. 2 on his 3DS, he noticed he felt like he was being watched. While in Snowfield Tanuki, he now knows why he got such a feeling. He posted this image online with his post, and if you look between the trees and the clouds, there appears to be a face of a man. The whole level had this man, and when he finished the level, the clouds left. When he woke up the next day and went to work, while waiting for a bus on the way home, he saw something he wished he hadn't. The face from the snowfield. That is one creepy face. Clouds, man. They're weird. Number 4, Smokin' Toad. The Mushroom Kingdom is a messed up place. This anonymous Reddit user was looking into how things in the Mushroom Kingdom worked when he noticed that toads go missing quite a lot. The times they go missing also seem to pair with when Mario comes to town. Not because the toads are cursed or turned into brick blocks, but because toads are a drug. The author was playing Super Mario 3D World on the 3DS when he noticed Mario's eyes particularly red. They were bloodshot and almost looked like they were throbbing. When the level was complete, it was gone, and when he returned to the main hub, he went to the washroom. When the author came back, Mario's eyes were red again, and the worst thing was about to come. A toad came running in the background with part of its head missing, grabbing at it and crying as it ran. Mario looked at the toad, then looked at the camera, and just smiled. Number 3, Otherworldly. Mario does not like to be played in other games that aren't Mario. The practicality of using homemade assets to create a Mario-like atmosphere in a game like Roblox is, in Mario's mind, a sin. Reddit user 2for1dolls claims that he had just finished creating a Mario-like world in Roblox, where you had different worlds and parkour challenges, and would always return to a central hub. You got the choice of player model too, one of these being Mario. When the author chose the Mario player model, they lost all control of their character. They would walk around as if inspecting, and chat messages would appear from the user, but they weren't typing. Eventually, the character model turned to look at the camera and its eyes went red. The whole level started burning, then the author's laptop caught fire, melting the keys and the screen. The whole time, he heard Mario laughing. An actual Mario laugh, not the typical Roblox "ooh." Penultimately, at number 2, Why Not Me? For a while, Sacred Fire on Azuroland.com was skeptical of any creepypastas, but after their encounter with Super Mario Bros. 2, they have a whole different outlook on them. The author loaded up Super Mario All-Stars on the SNES and played Super Mario. They chose Toad and began the game. However, Luigi did something odd. The camera zoomed in on his face and Luigi said, "Why not me?" The author thought it was a joke or something, an Easter egg after playing the game so many times, so they continued on. They jumped down the mountain, but they couldn't open the door. The TV flashed black and Luigi appeared again, saying the same thing. Why not me? The door opened, but after the boss battle, Luigi appeared once more and said, "Why not me?" again. After this, the author said screw that and went to bed. When they woke up, they decided to give it another chance. He played as Peach this time and the author's roommate gave him hell for it. Luigi would pop up every time he fought a boss. And at around 3 PM, the author went to do homework. He finishes at 9 PM, and when he did, his roommate came home. He entered wearing a Luigi costume and brandishing a knife. The author called the cops, but when they got there, the roommate turned around, looked at the author, and stabbed himself. What's really haunting about this whole ordeal are his last words. Why not me? Finally, taking our number 1 spot, jealousy. There was a meme going around recently from Mario Tennis Aces. Said the user praised Luigi the Lord on Reddit. I'm sure we all know about Luigi's bulge and how things escalate when the internet grabs a hold. Well, as it turns out, Mario escalates things too. After a match between Mario and Luigi in Mario Tennis Aces, a cutscene started with Mario congratulating Luigi on his win. Then the scene cuts to night, with Luigi sleeping in his bed. Mario sneaks in and shine comes from his hand. He climbs into Luigi's bed and the camera pans up. The shadows show Mario holding a knife, and the author hears Luigi scream as Mario presses the knife into him. And what Mario pulls up is an odd shape, but what looks to be Luigi's floppy forearm, maybe? Yeah. Sure. Number 10, Spec Ops Mario. This creepypasta comes from the user The Trial of Redacted on Reddit and is about when the user discovered that Mario has a collection of guns in Super Mario RPG. When the user had loaded his past save in Super Mario RPG, Mario seemed to be holding something. While playing through the game, Mario would randomly stop and raise his hand as if pointing, and then would lower and continue on. The author really got worried when, after he stood up, Mario seemed to fire a shot from a gun. After this moment, he looked closely at the thing Mario was gripping, and it was a pistol. After heading back to the castle, the author noticed a whole pile of guns, AK-47s, Glocks, snipers, and even an RPG. The author at this moment learned the true meaning behind the title of Super Mario RPG. Number 9, Mario is Dead. This is a creepypasta based on the theory that Mario died during the events of Donkey Kong Jr., and that everything we've seen since then has been in purgatory. When you die in the game, you're dead. But you have extra lives that can bring you back, like the end of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. However, the only character to possess this ability is the player, in whichever game they're playing. No other character in the game can come back. Sure, there are endless waves of Koopas and Goombas, but those are replacements sent out by the antagonist. At the end of Donkey Kong Jr., Jumpman falls to the ground and lays there with a halo floating above his head. He's dead, and since he's the antagonist and not the player character, he has no extra lives. And if we play as the same Mario from those games, how is he still alive? But long story short, he isn't. After that game, for the crimes he has committed against Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr., he is sent to purgatory. After this game, Mario's entire persona changes. He got a new girl, lives in a magic kingdom full of acid trip talking mushrooms, and fights a giant turtle who keeps forcing him to relive his worst moment, having his girlfriend stolen. And he is constantly being tortured by not getting that cake. I don't mean the dirty one. I mean an actual cake. Number 8, Hallucination. Do you want to know why Mario is always living in a magic mushroom filled kingdom? There is the answer. Magic mushrooms. This drug is considered a hallucinogen, which causes you to see things, particularly panthers or purple elephants. I'm not speaking from experience, I'm just going off stereotypes. While yes, these things don't appear in Mario games, a whole lot of other weird crap does. And the user ChickenBanana26 from Reddit claims to have gone into the Mario universe while having this experience. While having fun with friends, the author decided to experiment with things he hadn't experienced before, and after having a Mario themed power-up, he was having strange visions. He was sent to a world with talking mushrooms and bright colors, like the Mario universe itself. The other things he experienced, like Koopas and Goombas, were just his friend's pet turtles and mushrooms, which he decided to stomp on. He only came down from the high when a bullet bill hit him in the arm, and when he woke up, his friend was over him with a gun. Don't do drugs, kids. Stay in school. I'm one to say that. Number 7, Mario's Gamble. This user, the Green Hippo from Reddit, claims that in Super Mario Odyssey's New Donk City, there is a secret hidden casino where you can gamble all your hard-earned currency and then have your princess leave you. When entering it, it looks like a Mario-themed casino would. Servers wearing red and blue suits, bartenders wearing princess dresses, and themed games. When the author found this, they went to the slot machines that were Mario Kart themed. They had the blocks for power-ups from the game, and you would spin and you had to get 3 in a row, you know, typical slot machine. Well, when the author had run out of coins and was down to his final one, he spun one last time. It was 2 AM and he should have been in bed, but he didn't have to save and thought that he would never find this place again, so he kept going. When the slot machine stopped, they had managed to get 3 bullet bills. They were ecstatic and looked around the machine, but there wasn't any listing for how much he won. As he's looking, he hears a click come from outside. Then a barrage of bullets came in through his window and wall, breaking the window, TV, computer, everything they could. When it finally stopped, he immediately ran outside, but nobody was there. Number 6, Super Mario Odyssey, Dead Kingdom. When this unknown author from the Creepypasta fandom page wanted to get a new game, his local CEX had a copy of Mario Odyssey used. The cashier said that the person who returned it was extremely upset and didn't want the game anymore. They thought nothing of it and bought the game. When they got home, they put the game in their Switch and started it up. There was a save already, presumably from the last owner. So they loaded it up and they began in the Metro Kingdom. They wanted to head somewhere else and there was an area called the Dead Kingdom, and they had never heard of it before. They decided to go to the Dead Kingdom, you know, cause that's a good idea. And when they got there, they got bad vibes instantly. It was silent and looked similar to the Lava Land from Mario 64, and every Mario character was dead. They saw a Power Moon and got it, but when they touched it, instead of earning it, they got a black screen and a sound that seemed to be Mario dying. After there was nothing for 2 seconds, then it showed a picture of every character hanging by nooses, including Mario. The author called Nintendo and they apologized, explaining that they had a depressed worker who created the level and it was never supposed to be in the game. They said they would make sure this kind of thing would never happen again and hung up. When the author woke up the next day, there was a knock on the door. A bloody man was standing there yelling, "You did this!" Don't be weird in Mario games, man. It's your fault. Number 5, Mario tried to kill me. This unknown author from the fandom page's grandmother had just bought them a Wii, and they were excited to finally have their own console. They loaded it up in their room, and Super Mario was already installed. Being a huge Mario fan, they loaded the game, but no matter how hard they tried, Mario wouldn't move. They tried resetting, but the game said, "Don't reset, go back. You'll find something." The author went back and Mario was staring at him. Mario walked up to the screen and his hands reached out and pulled him into the game. The author looked around but could only see Mario and a shell. They kicked the shell at Mario, but Mario just kicked it right back. They started running what seemed to be an endless 1-1 level, but as they saw a cliff, they knew they had to make a choice. Mario or the pit? They jumped and made it over the pit, running for the flag that was now in sight. As he touched it, he saw Mario disintegrate and the author was thrown out of the game. The screen said, "Thank you for killing that dick, Mario." And then the Wii was shut off. When the author turned the Wii back on, the game was no longer there. Rip. Rip. F's in chat. Number 4, Giant Mario. While playing the new Super Mario Bros. For the Wii U, user Mystery619 had gotten a power-up that made him a Giant Mario. He went around destroying everything and loved it, eventually somehow making it to the Mushroom Kingdom. He was knocking down houses and even punched the castle a few times. Then the screen went black. Static appeared and it had the sound of cars honking. Then the sound of cars crashing. This was weird since he wasn't playing Odyssey and there was no cars in the game, but the sound got louder and more realistic. Eventually it sounded as if the author had surround sound, but then they realized the sound was coming from outside. They ran to the door and there were cars on fire and stuck under each other. Then they heard a crack. As they looked up, the roof was torn off their house, having debris fall and almost kill the user. The author focused on the being that tore off the roof and it was his Mario, smiling, enjoying the destruction. Number 3, Baby Mario. Warning: adult themes on the Super Mario Reddit page has a story about Baby Mario. Not the Baby Mario we know, the son of Mario. After years of trying and nearly succeeding, Mario was finally able to marry Princess Peach. But when they settled down and started to have a family is where things get crazy. While doing the deed, Mario thought he needed a little help. So he popped a mushroom and rejoined his new wife. When the deed was done, and 9 months later, a little baby Mario was brought into the world. But as he was being born, thanks to the mushroom Mario took, the baby started growing. While Peach was doing her best to get it out in time and the Toad doctor was pulling, there wasn't enough time. The baby Mario ended up killing Peach during birth, and Mario blamed her for causing his true love to die. Growing up, Mario was abusive and controlling, constantly putting his son down for what he did to his mother, and never touching another mushroom in his life. But without the mushrooms, he shriveled, leaving the void of the character we play as. His son took up the mantle, and that's why he can grow so much bigger with the help of a special mushroom. Penultimately, at number 2, the white eyes. When this unknown user from the Creepypasta Reddit page was playing Super Mario 3D World on their 3DS, his Mario had blank eyes. He thought it was cool, and that it was just a special glitch just for him. So the author tried their hardest to leave their DS on and keep the blank eyes. But after a month of the DS being on, the game started to glitch out even more. Mario would sometimes not even move. He would move the opposite direction he was supposed to, and he would grab objects without being told to. After a few days of this, Mario stops obeying altogether and the author loses all control. The Mario looks at the screen and yells, "I've been awake for a month, and you keep believing I'll do what you want?" That's a terrible voice, but I don't care. The white eyes turned to red and Mario jumped at the screen, grabbing hold of what could only be the camera and punching it until the author was kicked back to the home screen. Save your game and close it. Otherwise, next time, Mario may not be so nice. Number 1, Luigi's Revenge. Remember the story I told last time that was number 1 about Mario's jealousy? Well, there's a sequel. This story resumes where the last one left off. Mario cutting off Luigi's member. Luigi is brought to the hospital and rushed to emergency. He is able to be saved but has lost a valuable asset. Mario puts it away in a box in his room and starts hiding away from the rest of the kingdom. Luigi obviously wanted to get revenge, so he snuck into Mario's room to do the same deed. Unfortunately, however, Mario wasn't there. Luigi searched around his room and found his lost member, and thought of a new plan. Mario later comes back to see his love Peach, but as he enters the room, Luigi is laying in bed with her, getting one last use out of that lost appendage. That's when Mario decides that cutting something off wasn't enough. So he proceeds to cut them both down instead.